Of course. Well, welcome everyone. Happy Friday. Thank you all for joining us for this very, very special WomenHeart Father's Day live event. Today, we are honored to share a conversation about the role that support plays in living with heart disease. While a diagnosis may affect one person, the journey is very often shared by the people who stand beside them and around them every step of the way. Please join me in welcoming WomenHeart Champion Denise Dunager and her husband, Dr. Scott Brown. Together, they have navigated the challenges of heart disease while continuing to advocate, volunteer, and support others through the WomenHeart community. Scott brings not only the perspective of a devoted husband and caregiver, but also his experience as a physician, offering a very unique view of the heart disease journey that Denise is going through. Today, we'll be talking about partnership, caregiving, and the many ways that support shows up, both seen and unseen. So let's start off. Can you both introduce yourselves and share a little bit about your journey together and how heart disease has become part of your lives?
Yeah, you want me to start?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. Perhaps I'll just go a little step further back than that. I met Scott in January 2010, and we got married in 2014. And I think I started really feeling heart symptoms back in 2018. And
Okay.
it was subtle at first. It wasn't like, oh, all of a sudden here and then. And so I think that really was the beginning of our journey, and it was quite a journey because it's a journey you go on together, but it's not a destination you chose. It's not like planning a trip. So we've been coping, right?
Oh, yeah. I want to correct you. I'm a pharmacist, not a physician.
Oh, okay. Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
I would add to Denise's summary that really we were kind of in the dark for probably the last
6 years, 7 years.
6 years while she, was suffering from symptoms. So, and we were trying to find out, what was wrong, and she was increasingly getting more debilitated, and so it was. Denise is very persistent, as you know.
Yes.
She didn't stop until she kept on feeling not good and tired, and she kept trying to find out what was wrong, and luckily she found out soon in the nick of time, basically.
Yeah. And I know you just mentioned, Denise said it was a 6-year journey to diagnosis, but in the meantime, of course, you had all sorts of questions about what you were experiencing. Scott, in addition to being Denise's husband and support person, this perspective you bring of being a healthcare professional, right? Like in being in this world, how, if at all, does that background influence the way you've experienced Denise's diagnosis and support that you've been able to provide her through her heart journey?
Yeah, well, because I'm surrounded by that kind of stuff, I am familiar with what she was going through and what the recommendations were. So, I was probably just supportive in that we have to find out what's going on. So I kept on pushing her to go further. We didn't accept like doctors saying, "Oh, it's
nothing." Yeah.
And it was very frustrating because it wasn't an easy diagnosis for her. She went to a bunch of specialists and got a clean bill of health, at least from the heart perspective.
Yeah.
So it wasn't easy, and she kept being symptomatic. So, I was there to help her and to support her as she went through it.
Yeah. And Denise, you mentioned that it started around 2018 that you started having symptoms. How would you define the beginning of, would you define that as the beginning of your journey, of your heart journey, sort of the beginning of symptoms?
Yes, I mean, absolutely. When you come home and you are so wiped out,
Yeah.
and you know, it, we had said how there's like a before and an after, and it
Yeah.
really is such a change in the sense that you have to, it's not just in your head, but they're telling you it's in your head. And
Yeah.
it gets to a point where you give up your career, you give up so many things that you love to do because, well, I can't go hiking, I won't make it, or I can't even cook dinner. And
Mm.
and you begin in a way, I think we both kind of, since I did go to a cardiologist, I did, and I passed the stress test, and I did see so many doctors, and they kept saying everything's fine, everything's fine. So perhaps you get gaslit at some point, you start believing it. And were it not for a friend who came for a cup of tea and said, oh, why do you have a chair in front of the washer dryer? It's not normal that you can't do your
Yeah.
laundry.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and what's so interesting about that is that you want to believe that it's not your, like, you want to believe you're okay, right? So it's almost like you are complicit in your own gaslighting because you want there to not be anything wrong. So you willingly accept that, but then you're like the next day you wake up and you're still having symptoms,
Yeah.
right? So then you think that it's, oh, this was all just a dream, and then you wake up, oh no, this is actually my reality. Scott, what do you remember most about that time in the beginnings of these symptoms? What do you remember most, and maybe about how Denise, what was changing about Denise, or about her day to day?
Yeah, I would say, part of it was just a state of mind. She was getting kind of depressed about not knowing what was going on. So,
Yeah.
uh, I was there for her basically, and I did what
Yeah.
I could, and
He missed the yummy cooking.
she. And this really isn't just a one-way street. I'm there for her, and she's there for me too. So, right, she used to do a lot of things that she wasn't able to do, and then she's helped me in various ways too. And my memory's going a little now, and she's helping me keep track of things and.
Yeah.
And relax.
Amazing. Well, I know that's a big part of your journey, is relaxing and meditating and all of that, Denise. So that's wonderful. So I was going to ask about caregiving, but I think I'm going to reframe the question, because it's two-way caregiving, and I really love that reframe, Scott. So thank you for that. So when people think about caregiving, they often think about doctor's appointments, hospital stays, needing to advocate for your loved one, maybe with doctors. What does it actually look like on a day-to-day basis? What does your life together look like on a day-to-day basis as you're navigating these various heart and other kinds of health journeys?
I'll just answer that. Since she had the stents and the procedure, our life's much better. So
Mm,
I wouldn't say it's 100% normal, because she always has that in the back of her mind that if she's under stress or something, what's going on with my heart? That's the first thing.
yeah,
She goes like this,
yeah.
So it's always there, but our life is pretty good. So we're enjoying what we can.
And Denise, just to go back to that, so Scott mentioned, once you got the stents in, what was it like to go from not, having to find a diagnosis over 6 years to having the diagnosis and getting the stents? Was it, I mean, was it an overnight kind of night and day? How would you describe the difference?
Well, what's important for everyone to understand that it's not a linear journey. Yes, of course, it was
Yeah.
great for me emotionally to finally be validated when the
Yeah.
interventionist gasped and said, "Oh my God, 98% blockage," and he came and apologized to me in recovery, saying, "I really didn't think there was going to be anything there. Thanks for being so persistent." So that was good. And then, yes, physically, in some ways, I felt better. Like now I can do my laundry great. But in other ways, I felt a lot worse. And that's what people have to understand. Mental health wise, you're like, now I'm not the person I used to be. Now
Yeah.
I have heart disease.
Yeah.
That it doesn't define who I am, but it is part of what's going on. And if I get a backache, sometimes I'm like, okay, is that really a backache or is that my heart now? And there's these questions
Mm-hmm.
come in. And, thank heavens for Women's Heart, because being with other women, I have made so many connections. It takes it takes the onus off of your partner. That's why it's
Yeah.
critical for women to join Women's Heart and join a support group or just make a friend
Yeah.
that you can talk about that specific issue, because it's self-care is not a luxury. And then to get back to the
Yeah.
question, yes, it helped in that way. And then another thing that people never talk about, and I think that could be an hour's conversation, is then I felt really sick from the medications that they put me on. I went
Mm-hmm.
to the doctor and I said, if these are the extra years you are giving me, I don't want them. I
Mm-hmm.
in so much pain from all my whole body aches, and I have to take a nap like a baby, a morning nap and an afternoon nap. This is not life. I'm too young to feel this way. And it took quite a while. Now, thank heavens, knock on wood, my medications are balanced and I feel good. But that's for now, and you have to
Yeah.
understand that life is like that. It goes down, it goes up.
Yeah.
And you have to remember, when you're in a down, everyone, it will go back up.
Yeah, no, that's such an important reminder. We talked earlier about all the ways that that Scott has been there for you and sort of made contributions in your healing journey. And I'm wondering, we talk about things that are obvious, but there are probably things that are far less obvious, things that you probably people wouldn't even think would be support. So, Denise, can you talk about a few things that maybe Scott has contributed to your journey that maybe people never see or would never think to be of value to you?
All right. Well, for me specifically, um, my goal has always been to help mental health in women, and so now
Mhm.
women with heart disease, that's fine as well.
Mhm.
And so, for example, I offer quite a few classes a week, and we have two barky little yappy dogs that are. So he'll say to me, "Oh, do you have group tonight?" And I'll say, "Yeah." He said, "Okay," and he'll go in his studio with the two dogs and keep them quiet.
Oh, that's
People
lovely. Yeah.
we're doing meditation, they don't realize what his contribution is to it.
Yeah.
Or I'm putting up a new meditation on the site. I'll say to him, "Can you watch this one and let me know if you think there's something wrong with it?" So, whatever it
Yeah.
is you're interested in, whatever your passion is, to have your spouse support you in your passion. And, you know, I feel like so very lucky. And I met Scott later in life. So all you older ladies out there,
Ah,
keep trucking. I believe there's a pot for every lid, a lid for every or whatever. And yeah, I think I really got lucky there.
Oh, that is so lovely. For both of you, what have been some of the more challenging parts of the journey?
I just want to add something, what you were bringing up before.
Sure.
After the procedure, the stent, Denise was really not feeling great for a while. And she, it was true, it was the medicines and a bunch of stuff. But also, there's a rehab that she went through.
Yes.
And that, believe it or not, how long has it been since you had the
I
stent?
had cardiac rehab 3
stent.
months. The stent was December 30th, 2024.
And she's still in the rehab program, just as
Amazing.
goes twice a week just to work out.
Amazing.
She
Yes.
She is a vegetarian, a pescatarian now. She does all sorts of healthy things that she's included me. You know, I'm part of
Amazing.
I don't go with her to the workouts, but I do get to eat dinner with her, which is vegetarian. So I eat a lot less red meat, for instance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm living much healthier now that Denise is attuned to all these little tricks of getting through. So I just wanted to,
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that
yeah, since
addition.
the,
Yeah.
since the procedure, these things have really changed our lives in major ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and the question was around challenges. So I love that these are positives, maybe consequences, or uh, the side effects, or the after the after fact of getting a diagnosis and getting treatment. But what are some of the, like, let's call it the top challenge that each of you would cite in this journey?
Fatigue. It's the top challenge. It forced
Yeah.
me into early retirement, which cost me a lot financially, but also we are wrapped up in our identities of what do you do for a living? You know, it's usually a
Yes.
question
Yes.
at a place, and then like, oh well, if I can't work, then who am I and what do I do? And thank heavens I was fortunate enough that I was able to study and become a grief counselor and meditation guru. So it's like I refound something. So I always tend
Ah,
to look at the positive. And so I think that I remember Andy saying in the Beats of Change that she was kind of grateful for her heart attack because it allowed her to make, so many friends and it changed her life. And I thought, because it was just new to me when she said that, and I thought, oh,
yeah.
that's a thing to say. But
Yeah.
now I
Yeah.
have to agree with her. My life has become so much richer for all the contacts I've made and I'm still making and everything I'm doing. So I'm extremely grateful to Women Heart, but also just, that this journey can be viewed in a positive way. Sure,
Yes.
it wasn't fun. It's not something you actually choose to have, but
Yeah.
it's not so bad.
Uh,
You know, Denise, I would just add to that, the other really, I think, important framing in the context of heart disease is I often talk about how for half of us who have heart disease, the first sign of it is death. Right? 50% of people die from their heart attack and without having had any issues beforehand. So when we look at it from that lens, we're the lucky ones
Mhm.
who are dealing with heart disease, because right, half of us don't even get to have heart disease. So I think that's I same as you. When Andy said that on the film, I thought, wow, that's a really, really powerful statement. And now, having lived it, I think it's a big gift in the context of Women Heart. So Denise, you've been involved with Women Heart now for quite some time, and I love the focus that you have brought to Women Heart, and focusing on supporting women through their mental health journeys and their meditation journeys. And we talked about how Scott has supported you by taking the dogs and letting you have some quiet time. But how are some of the other ways that Scott has really enabled you to show up in the Women Heart community much more, with much more kind of commitment and passion?
I think he gives me strength. He's the
Yeah.
wind beneath my wings.
Yeah.
And we all have days. I always say this to anybody who's taking a course with me. I'm like, guys, I am not perfect. There's days I eat the wrong food, and I don't want
Sure.
anybody to think that I'm perfect and I do everything and I never get stressed out. Come on, I do. That does happen. I do know how to deal with it. And so if he sees, that I'm falling back into an old pattern of behavior, or I'm sweating something that's really small, uh,
Yeah.
he'll say, he'll give me a little like mental push, and I need it. And that's what friends do. And that's what our support group, because I did this course with, I don't know, I think with 17 women now from WomenHeart, and like they won't let me go. They're like, okay, now it can't be over. So we meet once a month, and just I think that camaraderie that you have,
Yeah.
women all over the country, and I think that's a gift for Scott too. Well, actually, he got to meet one who slept over last night, a friend from Colorado.
Oh,
So he gets the benefit, he gets the good
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And, I think it's a question of reframing, because I used to be angry at myself that I need a nap. And now
Mm.
I'm like, you know what? If that's the worst thing, that I need a nap, I'm just grateful, like you said, I'm not dead. So I need a nap.
Yeah. Yeah. Scott, were
Yeah.
you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say that the women in her group are really are amazing. That's all I want to say.
We are extremely lucky to have the WomenHeart champions that we have. Denise, I was thinking the same. When I need an extra day's rest, or when I need to take some downtime, I do beat myself up for it. But I will share this with you because I just heard this today. I was listening to Alex Honnold, who is the guy who free soloed El Capitan in Yosemite, right? Probably one of the best athletes in the world. He's 40 now. Okay, he's 40 years old. And he was answering a question about, how does climbing change for you over time? And goes, the older you get, the more rest days you need. And that's that. And I thought that was such a beautifully simple way of thinking about life, right? And we don't have to beat ourselves up, right? It's just, we can still do the things we love to do, but we just need to take a little bit more time resting.
Definitely.
And I just love that, right? Like, this is, a guy who has scaled a 3,000-foot piece of rock, and he's like, yeah, I just need more rest. So we can take his lead. You both appeared in the Beats of Change documentary, which you mentioned already, Denise. What a great experience. I mean, from my perspective, it was such a wonderful experience in working with the cinematographers and the film guys and the directors. What was the experience like for the two of you? Because you got to be in it together.
Well, I'm going to say one thing about that video. That is, after the final, it was a production, and it was a long haul to get through it.
Yeah.
Afterwards, when I watched it, I thought, God, it was just so beautiful, the video. And I said, we really do have a lot to be thankful for. I didn't even realize you can't see your own life, how you are, but this was someone else, looking in, and it showed me that we really do have a lot going for us, and be thankful for.
What a wonderful takeaway from the experience.
It was an amazing video.
Yeah.
The guys were great, by the way.
The crew was great. Yeah. Everybody was
Yeah.
great. It was just really exhausting. People don't realize the whole video was 6 minutes.
Yeah.
We started at 6 a.m. and they left my house at 5 p.m. And for 6 minutes. And then the next day we were together.
And then the next day, that's right. Yeah. It's a lot to put together, right? A little clip like that. I don't know if you know this, Scott, but Sean, the film guy, also has a relationship with heart disease. And when we discovered that, it made it that much more special that he was the one to do it, because he felt it so deeply for himself. And yeah, that was really powerful moment. What have each of you learned about partnership through this experience?
The importance of having a partner. We're very fortunate. I'm very fortunate to have a partner like Denise.
Yeah, it is truly a gift. And that being said, I also want to tell people that not everyone has a partner, but a partner can be so many different things. It can be a friend, it can be a pet, somebody shows you love, and so we all have to look for the blessings in our life and for the people who are out there, and for our sisters, our heart sisters. And I think another thing for people is like, we don't want to ask, women were like, oh, I have to be superwoman and I can do this all by myself. And I think that friends and family truly do want to help, and they don't know what to say, or they don't know how to help. So I think if you can reach out to your church group or your neighbors and just give them something specific, like if you have
Yeah.
a young child, you could say, oh, would you mind being the person who picks my child up from school? And that isn't too much of a burden because you're asking for one specific thing, and that works. And so I really think we have to just learn to be okay in asking for help and taking off our superwoman cape at some times, because that is life. Sometimes you're strong, sometimes you're not. And, you know, you get by with the help of a spouse or with people around you.
Yeah, I love that. And so in addition to that, for partners, caregivers, anyone who is watching after a loved one, what would you want them to know? What's one takeaway you'd want them to leave with?
Hmm. Well, I'd say don't take it personally when somebody gets grouchy, because it can happen.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, it is always easiest, and that's a known psychological fact, that you feel out in the world, you put on your best outfit and you speak and whatever, but then you take that off, and then you're so tired from just the day. Who do you snap at? Snap at your partner. Unfortunately, it is unfortunate.
yeah,
and
yeah.
and, and I'm not above anyone else. I've snapped, but at least I'm cognizant, and I turn around and I said, oh my God, that was terrible, and I'm so sorry that slipped out, and I'm just really exhausted, and I try to make it up to him in so many ways, that he knows when dinner's always on the table when he comes home, and
So
so
the dinners are back. Is that what I'm hearing? The dinners are back.
They're back. Yeah, through thick or thin, that's what I would say. You just have to be
Love
there.
that.
You know,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the bad and the good, it's still important to be there.
And if I may make an observation about the two of you, you're incredible communicators. And I imagine that that's also part of the secret, right? Is just being able to communicate really well with each other, wherever, like, however you're feeling on any given day. So I'm appreciating, I'm taking that away as a lesson. Last question, for women living with heart disease, what would you want them to hear about? This is the point you were making earlier, Denise, accepting support when they need it. So asking is one thing, but also accepting support when it's offered, or even when you need to ask for it. Yeah, what would you say about that?
well, that's definitely it. And what's that song, that Beatles song, I get by with a little help from my friends?
Yes.
How we need to get by. And Women Heart has been so invaluable to me in the friendships that I have created. And we meet once a month, and yes, we talk about heart journey, we do a meditation, but also you can just bitch and moan about anything. And that's the opposite of fight flight, is tend and befriend. So
Yes.
we need
Yeah.
to tend for each other, befriend each other, and that's how we continue to grow.
What a great message.
I'm in on that.
Beautiful, beautiful
Yeah.
message. Denise and Scott, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story with us, for sharing your optimism with us, for sharing your joy and your obvious love for one another, and for giving us a glimpse into what true support looks like on a day-to-day basis. Your experience really reminds us that heart disease impacts more than just the person living with the diagnosis. It affects relationships, families, entire support systems, communities, and that everyday acts of care, encouragement, and understanding can really make a difference. As we recognize Father's Day, we're celebrating the people who show up and the role they play in women's heart health. So thank you, Scott, and thank you to all the fathers out there and all the men out there who are supporting women with heart disease. If you would like more information on support for women, to make sure they have access to education, advocacy, and community, you can learn more about that and donate to womenheart.org. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and happy Father's Day, Scott.
Thank you, Selena. Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Selena.
thank you for Women's Heart.
Thank you.